My name is Matt Kloos. I'm co-founder and CFO at CompariSure Financial Services. At least that's the current name of the company. We are going through a bit of a rebrand and relaunch. I am from Cape Town, so Cape Town boy through and through. Did my schooling here, varsity, and now I live and work in this beautiful city of ours.
That's amazing. What was the thing that was really a catalyst that inspired you to start this business and go on this journey?
I think as many individuals, you have this dream of, one day it would be fun to start my own thing. One day it would be cool to explore what it's like to be an entrepreneur. But for most of us, it takes time. You got to go through the journey. You got to typically try and get your first job before you really feel comfortable and ready to start a business. I think there's a misconception that founders are all 18-year-old school dropouts, but most are not. They're experienced individuals with some capital behind them, with a network, with an understanding of the business and landscape and problems out there. So for me, I worked for quite a while in corporate, but then the ultimate catalyst was I had just worked on an IPO of a company in the UK, Go Compare, a comparison website. And a very good friend of mine, our founder, Jonathan Alcock, he had just sort of quit his job and was looking to do the same thing. So build a comparison site here and make it easier to access financial services products. I said to him at the time, I was in London, that's a brilliant idea. I'd love to be part of the journey. I've just started a new job here, but let's stay in touch. Let me be a sounding board. Let me give you, my thoughts, having been through the comparison site journey in the UK. And we knew each other from before, good friends. And eventually one thing led to the next. And, startup is about taking risks. And for me, at that point in my career, I thought, the chance of moving back to South Africa, being involved in an industry that I know, insurance, and to work on meaningful technology, it's an opportunity I can't pass up. I have to take this risk. Yeah. So that was in sort of early 2018. I quit my job in the UK and moved back to Cape Town to really give it a go at building a company.
That's incredible. I think there's this massive narrative, and I want to go back into, how you guys built this and all of that. But there's a massive narrative around leaving South Africa and finding more opportunities in other countries. This might be the first interaction I've had with a founder that said, oh no, I left, London, and the IPO and, the journey that you had there to come back here and build something. What do you think, informed that kind of decision?
I think many South Africans are very, passionate about our country and the opportunity, but there are challenges that go with that. I was sitting in London, working in a prestigious job at a big bulge bracket bank, working on exciting deals, but you're just a cog in the wheel, and there's many people like you, and everyone's sort of just in the rat race and trying to get promoted and go up the corporate ladder. But for me, there was a genuine calling to come and try and do something meaningful. Jokes aside, but when I was there, you chatting to people, and it's like, what? Oh, they've got a business idea, this guy, and he's trying to start. What is it? It's to order your coffee on the go and get your coffee to arrive 10 minutes earlier, or there, which in London, that's great. People value that, and obviously it's a busy, hustling city. But that was almost a moment where I thought, no ways, I'm not staying here to, maybe if I do start a business, but it's to help people. So many of the problems have been solved in Europe. Okay, there are a lot of basic needs have been met. Most people have a good quality of life. Okay, they're going through some of their own troubles now. But eventually it was just that opportunity to come back in the country that I love and do something to really try and make a difference. And those challenges lead to opportunities, which I'm sure is a theme that's come up many times before.
That's such a powerful mindset to have. I really appreciate that. So what was the problem that you guys found that you really wanted to solve with what you were building?
So I'll go back to the beginning. So I mentioned the comparison website. In South Africa, we have a unique insurance landscape that most South Africans are very aware of. Funeral cover. It's a product that most South Africans can buy, and have access to. But in terms of value for money, in terms of actual life cover, funeral cover, it serves an important need to ensure a dignified funeral and send off for your loved ones. But then what? What about the education of your kids or the long-term, needs of the family that's being left behind? So our original goal and problem was to make it easier to access products and compare. So I know you've had a few great colleagues on the show before, the guys that are doing amazing work like Naked and Pineapple, and those are the products we need. And still, as a consumer, it's hard to compare. It's hard to get quotes, it's hard to understand problems. So we set out to use tech to make that easier and be properly independent. So Hippo is an example that everyone knows, hippo.co, where you can compare.
Yeah.
Most of the brands there are part of the same group, TeleSure. They have a few independent brands now, so that's a great move. But at the time, we were the only truly independent live comparison platform. You could get a quote in minutes, which would otherwise take days. We used to ask people to guess the price of insurance, and people always overestimated the cost. They thought it was up to 5-10 times more expensive, for R1 million cover, for example. So that was really the need we were trying to solve.
Yeah. And, like you mentioned, I have been speaking to a lot of people in the insurance space, and a lot of them are talking about access and talking about just really removing a lot of the complexity and removing a lot of the opaqueness of the space itself. How have you guys tried to make sure that people really understand that, this is a platform that really can help them understand what they're actually getting in terms of value for money, but also just, what you're actually getting from the products that you buy?
It's a great question, and I'll build on my initial answer, but we had a hybrid approach. So we had a tech, obviously a tech element, a website that was easy to compare, tried to simplify, demystify, make it intuitive and easy. But at the same time, we included humans in the process. So you could get a quote online, get a first comparison, but then a human agent would jump on and assist you in the process. So it was sort of the best of both worlds. But at the time, we weren't, we were still an intermediary. We were selling products for an Old Mutual or a Sanlam, one of the big groups. And we had some good early traction. But along the way, we realized, comparing life insurance, underwritten life cover, that's one element. But a lot of customers who came through the door, the digital door, a lead looking for a product, they, underwritten life cover where you had to get to see a doctor and a nurse and do all that was not the right product for them. And so we launched a funeral product offering as well. But this was sort of 4 or 5 years ago, and we took a bet that people would prefer to do it via chat. So via a chatbot in an automated, easy, intuitive way. And so we built our first chatbot almost 5 years ago now, and that was an absolute runaway success. So 95% of the people who were buying online with us were buying online for the first time ever. People talk about digital and financial inclusion, which is critical in this country. But before that, to drive, you need digital inclusion. How do you get guys online and transacting? And for the longest time, the insurance market has been trying to get the mass market to buy online, to buy on a website, which was the only channel. But no one does. That mass market, people aren't browsing websites on their desktop. They're all on mobile. And at the same time, they're very used to chat. Everyone's on WhatsApp. It's so intuitive. My grandmother's on WhatsApp. And we took this bet that, an algorithm via a chat could sell the product online. And that's been a massive breakthrough for us. And we're actually expanding at the moment into a broader sort of tech play as a business where, we built that chat tech for ourselves to serve our own needs. But then we realized, wow, we could white label this product. We could get it out there, much the same as Amazon and AWS. They built AWS as a cloud computing platform to run their e-commerce. And then they realized, wow, we can white label this and get it out there.
Yeah.
So that's the pivot we're going through at the moment, sort of into this sort of chatbot-driven platform.
That's crazy because, there's a lot of businesses and examples of this where, a company or a software company was trying to build something and it might not have been working the way that they wanted it to, and they find something that they built to support that thing to be able to actually start to overtake even the main business itself. How do you start to balance those two opportunities, especially when you had a very clear problem that you wanted to solve with the comparisons, but now you have this massive opportunity with the chat? And maybe you can also go into just how the chat works as well.
Sure. I think the one element was just strongly performance and financial. We launched the comparison website. We had good early traction, but there were a few challenges to scaling that we were hitting. And meanwhile, the sort of chatbot side was taking off. And in that sense, it was a very easy decision to sort of focus more on the chatbot technology. the struggle we had sort of 4 or 5 years ago was around chat. A lot of people had poor initial sort of experiences. Siri and whatnot had launched sort of 10 years ago, and it was, in many people's minds, a bit of a non-event. What do? You set alarm clocks and then and then that's that. It was much like, apparently in the early days when Jeff Bezos was raising money, he was chatting to investors, and one of the big questions he always got asked was, but what's the internet? Which is crazy to think now, but this was in the 90s, 95, and he made a big bet that in the future people would buy everything on the internet, and his bet was right. And we sort of started making a similar bet in 2018, but there wasn't this groundswell movement that there is now around ChatGPT, and OpenAI has just cast the spotlight on the power of chat, of AI. It's made it accessible. The man on the street can sign up and start playing with it. And so now everyone sort of had this aha moment. I mean, it's terrifying as well, because there's all kinds of threats and dangers, and what about jobs that are lost? But that was sort of the driving change in terms of switching across. So we had early success with the chatbot. We started white labeling to more partners, and then that side of the business took off. So at the moment, actually, we're going through a rebrand, launching a new company, new brand, because if you're building this chatbot AI solution and your name's CompariSure, it doesn't quite compute. So we going through that at the moment.
I actually wanted to ask you around this crazy wave around ChatGPT, and it's been interesting to see the different reactions and feelings around how dangerous it is, but there's so much more around how powerful it can be to automating things. And when I had the interview with the guys from Naked, and a very big thing for them was eliminating call centers, for example, because they felt that was a really capital intensive sort of thing to be able to do as an insurance company, to have this building full of people just answering phone calls. But also on the other end is user behaviors were changing, and if they really wanted to move people interacting with insurance onto just purely technology and purely mobile and interacting with the app, they needed to do a lot more on making sure that experience was so much better. What is the thing that makes this chat function, whether it's being plugged into other sort of insurance products or other financial services, so much better than the experience of, say, the traditional experience of I'm calling someone and they're answering my questions, and I hope at the end of it I get the right answer, and then I try and either buy the product or change the product that I already have.
So I think the consumer has changed, as you said, a lot. Consumers in the last 10 years, there's been this mass adoption of mobile, so almost everyone's on the phone. And to be frank, people are sick and tired of being spam called. We're the third most spammed country in the world.
I believe that.
Exactly. Whether it's SMS spam, phone calls, people are just a bit sick and tired. And most people, if they can do something by themselves from the comfort of their home, at their own pace, whether it's in the evening, pick it up tomorrow, they prefer that. And there was this mismatch of they prefer that, but they don't know how to do it online. They're not going to browse websites. It's confusing. And the magic of chat was that having a conversation is what makes us human. It's the most fundamental element of being a human, and ability to talk. So if I can have the conversation via chat, and I do it when I want, however I want, and if it's well built on the tech side, that's a whole other story, and we should get into that. You asked how it works, and I think we should go back there. But if it's well built and does what it's promised to do, if you end the conversation with a great policy, then people are happy.
Yeah.
The other element is a sort of human handover. So chatbots are very good at doing repetitive tasks, mundane tasks, where humans don't actually want to do that job, and it's boring and mind-numbing. And we had that hybrid model where the chatbot would do all the work if the person wanted to buy themselves, but if they got stuck or if they wanted to ask a human a question, the humans are still there. So it's that hybrid model, I think, that's also served us quite well.
Yeah.
There's nothing worse than getting stuck in a chatbot and the thing says, I'm sorry, I don't understand. Or here's what I found. Here's a PDF. And you're like, "Argh."
So maybe let's go into how it actually works, right? Because I think, there's a fundamental misunderstanding of what it actually is and how it does work. The fear is just in this thing is doing things that no one knows and no one understands.
Yeah.
So how do you even start to build something like this as well?
I'll start on our side and then we can maybe move across to OpenAI and ChatGPT. But for us, there is a lot of fluff around AI. I mean, there are a lot of people that claim to be using AI, and we in the early days, used it in a very limited way by default. ChatGPT, they've done a great job in that it's open-ended and you can ask it about anything. But if you ask ChatGPT to try and sell somebody an insurance policy, it would struggle. And so what we did, in the same way that a good call center agent, if you do want to buy a product, he doesn't say, Matt, how can I help you buy funeral cover today? He takes charge. He leads the conversation. He says, do you have cover? How many kids do you have? What are you currently playing? Let's try to find you a better deal. Here are the steps, etc., etc. Which can be done with some smart logic, some decision trees, some smart frameworks. So that's how we started. We built it all in-house. It was first, Jonathan did the first version, and then we sort of built up a team of really smart guys and girls to sort of build it out further. So it was very sort of structured, but then we overlaid the intelligence, the AI, the NLP, so natural language processing, where the bot would detect words. There's a funny story, actually. We did a lot of the work initially through Facebook Messenger.
Oh, wow.
So before you could build on WhatsApp, Messenger was open first. So we built our first bots there back in 2018. And the one day we woke up to being blocked by Facebook and none of our chats were working. And we thought, oh my word, what's happened here? Eventually we got to the bottom of it and we'd been blocked for bullying.
What?
Facebook blocked us for bullying.
So were the chats bullying people?
Exactly, that's what we thought. We obviously didn't design the chat to bully people, but the definition per Facebook of bullying was like unwanted repetitive contact of the customer. And what would happen was someone would say something and then the chatbot would say, I'm sorry, I can't understand, try again. And then the person would say, never mind, leave it. Off,
Yes, because South Africans are thinking, why is this person not understanding?
Exactly. And the chatbot would keep politely saying, I'm sorry. And the person would eventually they'd get more and more annoyed. And eventually, futzak. So we spent a day training our chatbot to pick up all the South African swear words, slang words, different languages. So that now when someone says something like that, or futzak, or something a bit more harsh, it realizes and stops the conversation. And so there's all these sort of the school fees you pay along the way to building a great product that, it's been an incredible roller coaster the last few years.
Speaking about school fees, you've already spoke about just the shift that you guys are making to rebrand and the opportunity around, going from a comparison to also having the AI chatbot. And what other challenges have you guys had in building up this business? And you can compare sort of the early days versus where you guys are now.
Challenges, I think one of the most amazing things about being a founder and running your own business is you get to choose who you work with and hire good people. So that's been an amazing journey in terms of finding the right founding team. There were two of us. So Jono launched the business first. I joined a little bit later, and then we had to sort of build up a management team, to really get things going. So that's been a challenge. People have a lot of opportunity, and people come and go, and that finding the right people, the right mix, that's been a massive challenge. You have to compete with guys that can pay more, that are more established, that are less risky, etc. So you really have to compete in non-monetary ways. You have to build a fun culture. You have to tackle great problems. You have to, paint a picture for the future of where things are going. So that people element has been one of the most rewarding challenges. Let's put it that way, because we're very lucky now to have an incredible management team, and it's unbelievably rewarding when you find, people that just fit in and complement your existing skills and cover your blind spots. So that's definitely been one of the big challenges.
What do you think, you guys are looking for in people when you try and build out that mix, right? Because I do think that a lot of founders, the thing that hurts them most is not being able to, one, initially build a really great team, but then also repeating that mistake as the team grows and not knowing, what the right mix needs to be to build the right culture.
The challenge with hiring in the early days is the roles are also very undefined. You're hiring for something that you're trying to figure out. Okay, we need to sell more. Okay, we need someone in sales, but have we ever sold before? Maybe we as founders should sell for a while to understand. And so the roles are fluid, the roles are changing. And so you need to try and land that first to try and understand which way things are going. The biggest thing we try and get right is we sort of have a Venn diagram of overlapping requirements. It's one sort of, what does the business need? Okay, we need someone to start taking over ops. Ops is a problem at the moment. We need someone who's going to come in and take over ops. Then you've got the individual who you want to hire, and you look at sort of their skill set and their passions. So obviously skills in the workplace, but what are they passionate about? What do they, want to build their career around? And when you find an alignment, an overlap between what the business needs and what the person's passionate about, then you have this absolute home run where you hire the person, they do what you're not good at, they cover your blind spots, and they're doing what they absolutely love. So it's a little bit cliche, but in every interview we try and get that out of the people. Okay, you're a software developer. Where do you see yourself in 5-10 years? What projects do you work on the weekend? What drives you? And if we can get that overlap between skills and passion, then that's where we've historically really had, really great team members who fit into that culture.
Yeah. You mentioned that you guys are at around, 15 people right now already. Do you have fears about what it will look like when it's a lot bigger? Because I think, 15 feels still very much intimate. You guys can look each other in the eyes, you can shake hands, and you won't feel overwhelmed or anything like that. And the culture is a lot easier to manage. How do you think about what that might look like at scale?
One of the top founder fears, I read an article the other day, was just excessive growth and losing control. Because we, at the moment, exactly as you say, we know everyone by name. You kind of know their story, what's happening in their lives. And you will at some point lose that when you grow. So it's definitely something to think about. I wouldn't say I'm afraid of it, but it's definitely a change that one has to be cognizant of and be okay with. We are getting to a phase with 1 or 2 hires where one of our managers hires someone in their team, and you don't interact much, of course, occasionally. So I think it's just something to be aware of as the company grows. It's going to be challenging. The point around culture is so true. How do you maintain that culture? How do you scale your culture? I mean, that's very hard when there's 7 of you having beers every Friday. You've got a culture. But if it's 70, you can't all have beers at the pub, every Friday. So scaling culture is really hard.
That might get expensive.
Exactly. So I think one of the good pieces of advice someone said to me once was, as a growing startup, you go through these phases where you're 5 people, then you're 20, then you're 100, and the advice was try and find companies, mentors, people that are sort of one phase ahead of you, that have just gone through all those changes. They've gone from 3 to 10 to 20, from 20 to 100, and I found that quite helpful. And a lot of challenges in startup are the same. Like you say, how do you scale culture? How do you find talent? And whether you're in HR or tech or food processing, it's all the same. So you can learn a lot from people that have sort of walked the ground before you.
Yeah. So how do you still just keeping with the growth and scale? How has it been really speaking to financial services companies about this new type of technology that they can integrate into their products and be able to do things a lot more efficiently? How have they received that? And how do you look at what growth looks like over the next 5 to 10 years?
Startups and corporates have a very interesting relationship. So as you say, we were sort of trying to sell our technology to big corporates, and they're trying to innovate and they're trying to get on top of the latest trends. But often you're sort of operating at different velocities. Startups, cash is tight, you've got to move fast, you've got to land deals. Corporates have been around for a long time, and I think our record was 2.5 years from the day we met them. They said, yes, we love your technology, we'd love to implement it. 2.5 years later we went live.
Sure.
So that's on the one side, but that's why startups exist, why they have the opportunity to exist. I was listening to a Tim Ferriss podcast the other day, fantastic podcast. He was interviewing Bill Gurley, one of the sort of Silicon Valley investors involved with Benchmark and Uber. And, the way he phrased it was so fantastic. Corporates, they'll get a new idea and they'll try it, and if it fails, they just go back to what they used to do.
Yeah.
When you're a startup, if your idea fails, your experiment fails, you have to try something else. If you don't, you have to shut up shop and shut the business down. So if you're a startup, you do your first experiment, you do your second, you do your third, you do your fourth, you pivot, you do your fifth, you do your sixth. And so you keep going. But back to your question sort of on that relationship, yes, there's a lot of interest. It's always difficult to navigate. A lot of bigger firms have their own efforts, their internal teams that often try and copy what you're doing or learn from you. But by and large, we've been very lucky to work with excellent insurance partners. And now we're going on the journey to the second part of your question, growth. We, in our comparison days, if you're selling an insurance product, you're working with the big guys, the Old Mutual, Sanlams, as I said, the massive enterprises. And now as a technology platform, we've got a solution that you as a two-person business, can use, because everyone needs to contact their customers, right? Everyone's struggling to, engage with customers. And so now we're sort of moving down from the massive enterprises, the big corporates, to sort of mid-market and eventually to the sort of SMEs. So, whether it's for contacting customers, scheduling events, coordinating, with your customers, we're going on that journey of targeting different segments, because there's only a handful of mega listed JSE companies, but we need to sort of expand down the corporate size, put it that way.
Yeah. Do you find it difficult to really explain the value of being able to use this technology to run a business a lot more efficiently, and being able to leverage it to take some repetitive tasks and questions and stuff like that off the hands of, another person being employed, in the business or something like that?
What's difficult, I think, about if you say AI and these black boxes, that's very hard to explain. We've got some PhDs and they trained the AI and it'll do A, B, and C. That's very hard to explain.
Yeah.
What's very easy to explain is because of the penetration of WhatsApp, because every one of us uses it every day to communicate with family, friends. It's the easiest way. It's the primary method of communication. Even phoning friends, you sort of WhatsApp them first. Hey, are you free? Can we chat now? So everyone we talk to, everyone we pitch to is a user of WhatsApp in their personal lives. And so they can immediately see, oh, wow, if I can submit a claim via WhatsApp, that's way more convenient than, calling a center or going to the branch.